In the year 3047, humans had finally ventured beyond their solar system, exploring distant planets and meeting strange, intelligent beings. Among them was Captain Alex Carter, a brave, sharp-witted leader of Earth's Space Command. His latest mission was different. It wasn't about exploration or war. It was about diplomacy. The Zanari Empire, one of the most powerful alien races in the galaxy, had invited humans to their home planet, Zanera, for peace talks. The Zanari were a species unlike any other. Tall, sleek, and covered in shimmering, silver skin, their eyes glowed with a soft blue light. Their technology and culture were far more advanced than humanity's. Yet, they had one strict rule: no relationships with other species. Ever. Alex had heard of this law, but didn't care much. His mission was to make peace, nothing more. But everything changed the moment he met Princess Lyra, the daughter of the Zanari Emperor. Lyra was different from other Zanari. While most of her kind saw humans as an inferior race, she was curious, fascinated by their strength and emotions. When her eyes met Alex's at the Grand Peace Summit, something sparked between them, a connection neither of them could explain. "Welcome to Zanera, Captain," Lyra said, her voice smooth like music. "I hope you find our world interesting." Alex nodded, caught off guard by her beauty. "It's not the planet that interests me the most," he said with a smile, before realizing he was flirting with the Emperor's daughter. Days passed, and the peace talks continued, but Alex and Lyra couldn't stop thinking about each other. They began meeting in secret, far away from the watchful eyes of her father, Emperor Kaldar, and the rest of the royal court. Their conversations grew deeper, and soon they realized their feelings for each other were much more than just curiosity. It was love, but their romance was dangerous. If anyone found out, it could not only ruin the peace talks but also spark a galactic war. One night, under the two moons of Zanera, Lyra confessed her feelings. "We can't keep doing this," she whispered, her glowing eyes filled with sadness. "My father will never allow it. If anyone finds out, they will kill us both." Alex took her hand. "Then let's run away," he said. "We can find a place where no one can touch us. Somewhere between the stars." Lyra shook her head. "You don't understand. The Zanari would hunt us. Your people would lose faith in you. I can't risk it." Suddenly, a loud voice boomed behind them. "Risk what?" It was General Vexus, the Emperor's top military leader and Lyra's bitter enemy. He had always suspected something between Lyra and Alex, and now he had caught them red-handed. His metallic armor clanked as he moved closer, his cold eyes narrowing. "You've broken our most sacred law, Princess," Vexus sneered. "Your love for this human is treason." Before Lyra could respond, Vexus lunged at Alex, drawing his energy sword. Alex was quick, dodging the attack and drawing his blaster. The two clashed in a fierce battle under the moonlight. Vexus was a powerful warrior, but Alex had Earth's military training on his side. Just when it seemed Vexus had the upper hand, Lyra stepped in. Using her Zanari powers, she unleashed a burst of energy, knocking Vexus to the ground. "You won't touch him," she yelled, her voice full of determination. "You would betray your own people for a human?" Vexus spat, struggling to get up. "It's not betrayal. It's love, asterisk asterisk," she said, helping Alex to his feet. But their problems had only just begun. The battle had been heard throughout the palace, and soon Emperor Kaldar himself arrived with his royal guards. His face twisted in anger as he saw Alex and Lyra standing side by side. "What is the meaning of this?" the Emperor roared. Lyra stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Father, I love him. I love Alex, and I will not hide it anymore." The Emperor's face softened for a moment, but then his eyes hardened again. "You know the law, Lyra. A Zanari cannot be with a human. It will break the balance of the galaxy." Alex stepped forward, his voice steady. "With all due respect, Your Highness, maybe it's time to change the laws. If we can make peace between our species, why can't we let love do the same?" There was silence. The guards shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what would happen next. The Emperor stared at them, torn between his duty as a ruler and his love for his daughter. "If I allow this, it could change everything. The council will never accept it." The other species will see it as a weakness. You risk the future of both our peoples. Lyra held her father's gaze. Or we could show them something greater, something beyond laws and politics. We could show them that love between any two beings can be stronger than any force in the universe. The Emperor thought for a long moment. Then finally he spoke. There will be no peace, he said quietly, turning his back on them. If you choose this path, you will be hunted by your own kind. But you are my daughter, and I will not be the one to stop you. Tears filled Lyra's eyes, but she stood tall. Thank you, father. With no other choice, Alex and Lyra fled the palace, leaving Zanera behind. They boarded Alex's ship, the Starfire, and set off into the unknown with the Zanari Empire and the entire galaxy on their trail. But they were not alone. As they traveled from star to star, they found allies, humans and aliens alike, who believed in their love and the change it could bring. Together, they began to build a new alliance, one that could stand against the old laws of the galaxy. The Starfire streaked through the vast, silent blackness of space, far from Zanera and everything Alex and Lyra had ever known. The hum of the ship's engines filled the cockpit as Alex steered them into the uncharted sectors of the galaxy, while Lyra sat beside him, gazing at the stars. They had escaped for now, but the weight of what they'd done hung heavy between them. The Zanari Empire would not let this go. Lyra had turned her back on her people, and Alex had put Earth's fragile alliance with the Zanari at risk. The galaxy was about to become a dangerous place for both of them. What now? Alex asked, glancing over at Lyra. She didn't answer right away. Her glowing blue eyes scanned the stars, searching for answers in the vast expanse of space. Finally, she turned to him, a small, determined smile on her lips. We find others like us, those who believe that the future can be more than just war and laws. We build something new. Alex chuckled softly, though there was a hint of nervousness in his voice. That's a big dream, princess. You're talking about changing the entire galaxy. Lyra's smile widened. I know, and I think we can do it. Meanwhile, back on Zanera, General Vexus was seething with rage. His wounds from the battle with Alex were still healing, but his hatred burned hotter than ever. The Emperor's decision to let his daughter escape with a human was an insult to everything the Zanari stood for. Vexus couldn't let this stand. He stood in the Grand War Room of the palace, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The High Council had been summoned, 6 of the most powerful leaders of the Zanari Empire, each representing different regions of the galaxy under their control. They stood silently as Vexus spoke, his voice cold and filled with venom. Princess Lyra has betrayed us, he said. Her actions are a threat to the balance of power in the galaxy. If we allow her to continue, others will follow. We must capture her, and the human, before they can cause more damage. One of the council members, a tall Zanari with deep green eyes, frowned. The Emperor has already made his decision, Vexus. Are you suggesting we go against him? Vexus smirked. The Emperor is weak. His love for his daughter clouds his judgment. We must act, with or without his approval. Another council member spoke up, his voice low and filled with concern. But what of Earth? If we move against this human, it could spark war with their people. Vexus slammed his fist on the table, his eyes burning with hatred. Let them come. The humans are weak. They rely on brute strength and emotion, but they are nothing compared to the power of the Zanari. We will crush them, and anyone else who dares stand with them. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, but ultimately nodded in agreement. They knew that if they didn't act soon, Vexus's fury would consume them all. Back on the Starfire, Alex and Lyra were already beginning to form their own alliance. Their first stop was Nova Outpost, a neutral space station in the far reaches of the galaxy, where smugglers, traders, and rebels alike gathered. It was a place where no empire held power, a perfect spot to find allies for their cause. As they approached the station, Alex looked over at Lyra. Are you sure about this? We don't know who we can trust here. Lyra nodded. We'll have to take risks. But there are people, both human and alien, who want change. We just need to find them. Once they docked, The station's bustling marketplace welcomed them with the sounds of alien chatter, holographic signs flashing with vibrant colors, and the smell of strange, exotic food. It was a melting pot of species from all corners of the galaxy. As they moved through the crowds, Alex spotted an old friend, Jackson Riker, a rugged human smuggler who'd helped him out of a few tight spots in the past. Riker's ship, the Silver Hawk, was known for smuggling rare goods and sometimes people across the galaxy. "Alex Carter," Riker called out with a wide grin. "Never thought I'd see you in a place like this. And who's your friend?" He gave Lyra a curious look. "This is Lyra," Alex said carefully, not revealing too much just yet. "We're looking for people who might be interested in a little rebellion." Riker raised an eyebrow, his grin fading. "Rebellion? Against who?" "The Zanari Empire," Lyra said boldly. "We need allies. People who believe that the galaxy doesn't have to be ruled by fear and control." Riker's eyes widened. "Wait, you're the Zanari princess? Aren't you? The one who ran off with a human?" "The whole galaxy's talking about it." Lyra nodded, standing tall. "That's me. And we're not just running. We're fighting for a better future." Riker crossed his arms, thinking, "You're going to have a lot of enemies coming after you, princess. Especially Vexus. That guy's ruthless." Alex clenched his jaw at the mention of Vexus. "We know. That's why we need people like you, Riker. People who can help us build something bigger." Riker looked between Alex and Lyra, then sighed. "All right, I'm in. But if we're going up against the Zanari, we'll need more than just a few ships. We'll need weapons, resources, and most importantly, information." Lyra smiled. "I can help with that. I know the Zanari better than anyone. And there are others inside the Empire who don't agree with what's happening. We can bring them to our side." As they began forming their plan, news of Alex and Lyra's rebellion started to spread across the galaxy. Some called them fools, destined for failure. But others were inspired. Small factions of humans, aliens, and even rogue Zanari began reaching out, offering their support. The rebellion of the Star-Crossed, as they were now called, was growing. But it wasn't long before Vexus found them. His fleet, the Black Talons, was the most feared in the Zanari Empire, and he wasted no time in tracking down the Starfire. The battle that followed was fierce. Vexus's ships unleashed a barrage of firepower, and the Starfire shook violently under the onslaught. Alex and Riker piloted the ship with all their skill, dodging and weaving through the chaos. But they were outnumbered and outgunned. Just when all hope seemed lost, a fleet of ships appeared on the horizon. Human warships, allied with the rebel Zanari and a few other alien factions, joined the fight. The tide of battle shifted, and Vexus's fleet was forced to retreat. But Vexus wasn't finished. He knew that as long as Alex and Lyra lived, they would be a threat to his power, and he was willing to do whatever it took to destroy them. The galaxy was now divided. On one side, Vexus and the forces of the old empires clinging to their power. On the other, Alex, Lyra, and their growing rebellion, fighting for a new future where love and unity could reshape the galaxy. The galaxy trembled as news of the battle between the Starfire and Vexus's fleet spread like wildfire. For the first time in centuries, a rebellion had sparked against the iron grip of the Zanari Empire, and it wasn't just humans who were joining the fight. From the distant planet of Torvax, the mighty Torvani warriors pledged their strength, while the peaceful Darik, a race of telepathic beings, offered their wisdom and strategy. The tide of the galaxy was shifting, and at the center of it all were Alex and Lyra. On board the Starfire, the crew gathered in the war room, their faces lit by the glowing map of the galaxy on the central table. Alex, standing at the head, glanced at each of them, his new family of rebels and allies. "We've gained a foothold," Alex said, his voice steady but filled with the weight of their growing responsibility. "But we can't afford to let our guard down. Vexus won't stop until we're all dead." Riker leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed. "He's like a bloodhound, that one. You sure we're ready for what's coming next?" Lyra stepped forward, her regal presence commanding attention. "Vexus is ruthless, but he's predictable. He's used to ruling through fear. If we can gather more allies, build a real network, we'll have a chance to outsmart him." From the corner of the room, a young human engineer named Tessa, with her wild red hair tied in a messy bun, spoke up. I've been working on a way to boost our communication channels. If we can broadcast our message to the hidden colonies, even more factions might join us. But it's risky. The Zanari could intercept it. Alex nodded. We'll take that risk. We need to show the galaxy that they don't have to be afraid anymore. Across the stars, in the cold, gleaming halls of the Zanari War Palace, General Vexus stood before Emperor Kaldar, his expression a mask of rage. The Emperor's face was a storm of conflicting emotions. He had let his daughter and Alex go, believing that they would disappear into the vastness of space. But now, they had become the heart of a rebellion that threatened everything he had worked to build. Your weakness has cost us dearly, Vexus growled, his voice barely hiding his contempt. Lyra and her human lover have united the scattered factions. They've already won battles in the outer systems. They won't stop until the Empire falls. The Emperor sighed, his shoulders heavy with regret. Lyra is my daughter. She believes in something that I cannot. But I will not kill her. Vexus's eyes flashed with fury. Then you will watch your empire burn. If you won't act, I will. Without waiting for permission, Vexus stormed out, his mind already plotting his next move. He didn't need the Emperor's blessing. He had his own fleet, his own loyal soldiers, and he would destroy anyone who stood in his way. Back on the Starfire, the rebels were preparing for their next strike. Alex and Lyra stood together on the ship's observation deck, staring out at the swirling nebula beyond. The stars seemed both beautiful and dangerous, just like the path they had chosen. Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if we hadn't met? Alex asked softly, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Lyra smiled, though there was a sadness in her eyes. I think about it all the time, but then I remember that even in the darkest moments, love is what makes life worth fighting for. And I wouldn't change a thing. Alex turned to her, his hand gently brushing against hers. We'll win this, Lyra. Somehow, we'll find a way. Before Lyra could respond, an alarm blared through the ship, and Riker's voice crackled over the comms. Alex, Lyra, get to the bridge. You're going to want to see this. They rushed to the bridge, where the rest of the crew was already gathered. On the main screen, a holographic message from Vexus appeared. His face twisted into a cruel smile. To the so-called rebellion, Vexus sneered. You've had your fun, but it ends now. I have tracked down your pathetic little fleet. And to make things clear, this is not a battle you can win. Surrender now, and I may show mercy to your followers. But make no mistake, Alex Carter and Lyra, your lives are forfeit. The message ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Tessa was the first to break it. He's bluffing, right? He doesn't know where we are. Riker shook his head. Vexus doesn't bluff. If he says he's coming, then he's coming. Lyra clenched her fists, her glowing blue eyes burning with resolve. Then we'll meet him head on. This is our fight now. The next few hours were a flurry of preparation. The rebel fleet, made up of a motley collection of ships from across the galaxy, gathered in a hidden nebula where they hoped to make their stand. They didn't have the numbers or the firepower to match Vexus's fleet, but they had something far more powerful: hope. As the ships positioned themselves for battle, Lyra addressed the entire fleet over the comms, her voice strong and steady. I know many of you are afraid. I am too. But we are fighting for something greater than ourselves. We are fighting for a galaxy where love, unity, and freedom are stronger than fear and control. Today, we may be outnumbered, but we are not outmatched. Together, we are unstoppable. The fleet responded with cheers, and Alex smiled proudly at her. Soon, the dark void of space was lit up with the fiery engines of Vexus's fleet, the Black Talons, as they emerged from hyperspace. The battle began with a deafening roar, lasers and missiles cutting through the stars in every direction. Alex piloted the Starfire with incredible precision, dodging enemy fire while launching counterattacks. Riker, in his trusty Silver Hawk, swooped through the chaos, taking out Zanari fighters with expert shots. But the real threat was Vexus himself, piloting the massive Judgment, a warship equipped with devastating weapons. He targeted the heart of the rebel fleet, and with each blast, ships were torn apart like paper. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the rebels were struggling. The judgment was too powerful. Alex and Lyra exchanged a look, one that spoke volumes. They couldn't win this fight through brute force. "We need to take out Vexus's ship from the inside," Lyra said, her voice calm but determined. Alex nodded. "I was thinking the same thing. We'll need to board the Judgment and disable its weapon systems." With the plan set, Alex, Lyra, and a small team of rebels boarded a shuttle and made a daring run toward the Judgment. They dodged through the wreckage of the battle, narrowly avoiding fire from Vexus's fleet, and finally docked with the massive warship. Inside, the halls were dark and cold, lined with Zanari soldiers. But Alex and Lyra fought their way through, side by side, their bond unbreakable. Lyra's Zanari powers, a mix of energy manipulation and telepathic abilities, allowed them to outmaneuver the guards, while Alex's combat skills ensured they made quick work of anyone in their path. Finally, they reached the Judgment's control room, where Vexus stood, waiting for them. "I knew you'd come," Vexus snarled, drawing his energy blade. "You're just as predictable as your father, Lyra." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing fiercely. "I'm nothing like my father. I fight for a future where people like you don't get to decide who lives and who dies." Vexus lunged at her, but Alex blocked the attack with his own weapon. The two clashed in a brutal fight, their blades sparking with every strike. Vexus was strong, but Alex's determination to protect Lyra gave him the strength to hold his ground. As the fight raged on, Lyra moved to the control panel, working quickly to disable the ship's weapon systems. Vexus saw this and let out a roar of fury. "You will not take this from me," he bellowed, but it was too late. With a final, swift move, Alex knocked Vexus to the ground, his blade at the general's throat. "It's over," Alex said, his voice steady. Vexus glared up at him, hatred burning in his eyes. "For now, human, but you'll never win this war." Lyra finished disabling the weapons, and the Judgment's guns powered down. The rebel fleet seized the moment, launching a final assault that crippled Vexus's forces. The battle was over. The rebels had won for now. As Alex and Lyra stood on the deck of the Starfire, watching the stars, they knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was still in turmoil, and Vexus would not rest until he had destroyed them. But they had hope, and together they would fight for the future they believed in. The aftermath of the battle was quiet. The once chaotic battlefield now shimmered with the wreckage of Vexus's fleet, drifting silently through the stars. The rebel forces had won a decisive victory, but everyone knew that this was only a chapter in a much larger war. Still, there was a sense of relief, a moment to breathe. The galaxy had heard their message. Hope was spreading. On board the Starfire, Alex and Lyra stood alone on the observation deck. The soft hum of the ship's engines was the only sound as they gazed out at the endless expanse of space. Stars twinkled in the distance, and the blue and purple hues of the nearby nebula danced in the darkness. Alex leaned against the railing, his eyes fixed on the stars. He was bruised and battered from the fight, but there was a peacefulness in his heart. "We actually did it," he said quietly, almost to himself. Lyra stood beside him, her long silver hair cascading over her shoulders, her glowing blue eyes reflecting the distant stars. "We did," she replied softly. "But the fight isn't over. Vexus will come back. The Empire won't stop until they've crushed this rebellion." Alex turned to her, reaching out to gently touch her hand. "We'll face whatever comes next. Together." Lyra smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Alex, you know what this means, don't you? There's no going back for either of us. The Empire will always see me as a traitor. Earth might never forgive you for siding with me." Alex stepped closer, his fingers lightly brushing her cheek. "I don't care about any of that. None of it matters to me if I'm not with you." For a moment, they stood in silence, the weight of everything they had been through settling between them. Lyra closed her eyes, leaning into Alex's touch. She had grown up believing that her destiny was tied to the Zanari Empire, that her life was meant to follow the rigid rules of her people. But meeting Alex had changed everything. He had shown her a different path, one filled with love, hope, and the possibility of a better future. "I never thought I could have this," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. "A love that's stronger than everything trying to tear us apart." Alex pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. "You have me. Always." They spent the next few days in relative peace, helping the rebels regroup and plan for the future. But even in the midst of the rebuilding, Alex and Lyra found moments to steal away together, away from the demands of the galaxy. One evening, they found themselves on the planet Aurora V, a lush world known for its vibrant, glowing forests and crystal-clear lakes. The rebel leaders had arranged a temporary base there, far from the prying eyes of the Empire. As dusk fell, Alex and Lyra walked through the forest, the trees glowing softly in shades of blue and green. Fireflies of alien light danced around them, casting a magical glow on the path. The air was warm, filled with the scent of strange flowers, and for the first time in a long while, the galaxy seemed quiet. "This place is beautiful," Lyra said, looking up at the glowing treetops. "It's hard to believe there's a war going on out there." Alex smiled, wrapping his arm around her waist as they walked. "We could stay here, you know. Forget about everything and just live. No war, no rebellion. Just you and me." Lyra laughed softly, though her heart ached at the thought. "As much as I want that, we both know it's not who we are. We'll always fight for something bigger than ourselves. But maybe just for tonight we can pretend." They reached the edge of a lake, its surface shimmering with the reflection of the twin moons overhead. The water was calm, like a mirror to the stars. Alex took her hand, pulling her gently towards the shore. "Dance with me," he said, his voice soft. Lyra raised an eyebrow, amused. "There's no music, Alex." He grinned, pulling her closer. "We don't need music. We got the stars." She smiled, resting her head against his chest as they swayed together by the water's edge. The galaxy's troubles seemed distant, forgotten in the warmth of their embrace. Alex's arms around her felt like the safest place in the universe. And for the first time in a long while, Lyra allowed herself to feel truly at peace. "I love you, Lyra," Alex whispered, his voice barely more than a breath. "I don't care what the galaxy thinks or what it throws at us. I love you, and nothing can change that." Lyra looked up at him, her glowing eyes filled with emotion. "I love you too, Alex. More than I ever thought possible." He kissed her then, softly at first, and then deeper, as if they were trying to pour all the unspoken words, all the emotions, into that single moment. The universe around them faded away, and for that brief moment, it was just the two of them, together against the stars. As the night wore on and the moons rose higher in the sky, Alex and Lyra sat by the edge of the lake, their hands entwined, their legs dipped in the cool, clear water. They talked of the future, of the rebellion, of the battles yet to come, but also of dreams they hadn't dared to speak of before. "One day," Alex said, staring out at the moons, "when all of this is over, when the war is done, I want to find a place like this, somewhere quiet, somewhere we can finally live the life we deserve." Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder, her heart filled with hope. "And we will. We'll fight for that future, for us." The next morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden light across the glowing forests of Aurora V, Alex and Lyra knew that they would face whatever came next together. Their love, forged in the fires of war and rebellion, was unbreakable. They had defied the odds, defied their own people, and defied the galaxy itself to be together. And no matter how many battles lay ahead, they knew they would win, not just because of the allies they had gained or the strength of their rebellion, but because they had something far more powerful than any weapon or army. They had each other,